I'm Russell, and this is Voice Over Work, an audiobook sampler. Where do you listen? Today is July 10th, 2023. Have you ever wished you could have a guide to engaging conversations, presentations, and making an impact on people? Are you looking for practical steps to improve every interaction by at least 1%? Well, you're in luck. Today, How to Speak Effectively by Patrick King is, according to the author, like a field-tested guide to the battlefield of social interactions. There's no fluff. It dives directly into tips you can apply on a daily basis. Today's episode is the audiobook preview of Patrick King's new book, How to Speak Effectively. Thanks for joining us today. Have you ever been speaking with someone, feeling as though you're reaching them, when all of a sudden they say something that lets you know that you're both on completely different wavelengths? It can be a disorienting and frustrating experience, but miscommunication happens for a reason, and it can be avoided. Poor communication arises as a result of a mismatch of perspectives, approach, or conversational skill. Being an effective communicator means appreciating that the complicated process of communication doesn't happen by accident. To avoid misunderstandings, you need to consciously and actively take charge of the process. And this is especially true when your message is subtle, nuanced, or very abstract. If you examine any moment of miscommunication clearly, you'll see that understanding breaks down for a few reasons. One or both of you has failed to understand how the other is viewing things. Faulty assumptions have been made, or someone has jumped to conclusions. In 1974, business professor Chris Argyris created a handy tool for better communication, which he called the ladder of inference, sometimes called the ladder of inquiry. The ladder is a metaphor for the way people think whenever they're given new information. It's about how new data and information is processed. What's useful about his metaphor is that it reminds us, in a simple way, that different people tend to process information in different ways. If we are unaware that this is happening, we can talk at cross purposes and miscommunication arises. Before we look at the ladder, let's consider an example. Imagine a couple working together on a household budget. Jamie is looking back at the past 6 months and trying to find out where they overspent and why. Alex is looking ahead to the next 6 months and trying to figure out what kind of summer vacation they can afford. They end up having an enormous argument, with Jamie thinking that Alex is not taking money concerns seriously or taking responsibility for overspending, whereas Alex can't see why Jamie is stuck on what's in the past and can't be changed. They both find themselves saying, "I'm just trying to get a handle on our financial situation," and yet mysteriously, they also both feel that the other one is getting in the way. What's happened here? According to Argyris, communication is broken down, and it's because Jamie and Alex are on different rungs of the ladder of inference. If you've ever experienced a communication breakdown of this kind, you'll know that it can be very subtle and hard to pinpoint. Often, we're only actually aware of our assumptions, expectations, and frames of reference when they conflict with someone else's. But this is where the ladder comes in. It looks as follows. Imagine a ladder with each rung gradually getting smaller from bottom to top. Actions, beliefs, conclusions, assumptions, meanings, selected data, observations. Now imagine that this ladder is standing in a big puddle of water, which we'll call the pool of observations. This pool contains all the possible conversations we can make about the world. Theoretically, there are infinite possibilities. The next rung is observations. These are all the observations that you select from the candidates of potential. We'll look at what causes you to select some observations and not others in just a moment. The next rung is about the pieces of information you further select from these selected observations, selected data, i.e., it's a subset. You're further narrowing down the data you're And that's it for this week's episode of Voice Over Work, an audiobook sampler. Where do you listen? Be sure to sign up for the author's email list at bit.ly/PK Consulting. And tune in next week for the chapter-by-chapter preview of this very book. See you then.